persons cases in Alaska are not that unusual. In fact, many people go to Alaska with just that in mind, disappearing. The wilderness of Alaska is beautiful, vast, and dangerous. Known as the last frontier, this cold and treacherous wilderness, where some have vanished in the wild, Christopher McCandless style, never to be seen or heard from again, likely succumbing to the elements. The database of missing persons for the state of Alaska is quite large, and while many of these cases are possibly accidental, people maybe losing their way on a hike or being unprepared in the elements, or some even on purpose, there are still many that have disappeared under suspicious circumstances. The first one we will talk about is Sierra Raye Roberts, missing from Anchorage, Alaska. Sierra was just 25 years old when she disappeared. Circumstances of her case are almost like something out of a movie or a Jeffrey Epstein documentary. Sierra's official listed date of missing is March 4th, 2008. However, there have been confirmed reports of her afterwards. On June 12th, she was arrested for prostitution and then released. She also allegedly received a traffic ticket on December 4th, 2008. That date would be the last date of contact anyone had with Sierra Raye Roberts. Now, I don't fully understand why these events didn't change her official missing date in her case file. It just makes me question if these incidents were legit. But they are mentioned in several places, and being that they are official arrests or traffic violation, it seems that it was her and was legitimate. However, despite that, the fact remains that in her file is listed a date of disappearance, which remains at March 4th, 2008. I am going to be using Sierra's middle name here as we do talk about this case because there is actually another unsolved missing person named Sierra Roberts, missing from Hot Springs, Arkansas. We have noted that as a case to look into deeper also, but internet searches for Sierra Roberts will bring up the Arkansas case more regularly. So I am going to refer to her as Sierra Raye Roberts. So who was Sierra? Sierra fell into the wrong crowd early on. She was married and divorced by the age of 21, and she also had some trouble with drugs. There isn't much known about her early life or her family situation, but at some point, Sierra developed a connection with Josef Boehm. Josef, Josef, was a well-known Alaskan businessman with the nickname of Joe Millionaire. Josef had a secret life, however, similar to that of Jeffrey Epstein. He would lure young girls as young as 13 to his home for them to perform sexual acts on him or other men in exchange for drugs or cash. Boehm was eventually caught, and Sierra was going to be a state's witness at his trial. Boehm, not wanting Sierra to testify against him, asked a friend, Don Webster Jr., to keep Sierra at his condo until after the trial. This friend, Don Webster Jr., often went by the name Jerry Starr, and most of the girls would actually come forward to say they only knew him by his nickname, which was Daddy. Sierra would never show up to testify against Boehm. Hence, her original missing person date was listed as March 4th, 2008. It is really unknown if Webster was successful in keeping Sierra or if Sierra changed her mind or got scared. But for whatever reason, she did not show up to testify against Boehm on that day. Now, Boehm would eventually plead guilty to all of his charges, and he was sentenced to 13 years for his crimes. I read a little bit on what Boehm was doing and what his crimes entailed, and 13 years is an injustice. This man did so many horrible things to girls throughout at least a few years that police were able to identify. Now, girls testified that they were terrified of him and that he would often threaten to murder them or murder members of their family. Women would tell stories of being beaten so badly that both eyes would swell and they couldn't see for days. Boehm had a small, tiny space in his house, which he called the box, and this is where he would keep girls for days on end. There were a few unsolved murders of young women in that area during that time, and some believe that there was some connection to Boehm with them, but nothing was ever proven. Some of the girls in his care did say that he would threaten them by saying that they didn't want to end up like those women. Boehm would die in 2014, possibly taking some secrets with him to the grave. Don Webster, aka Daddy, would also be arrested for similar crimes, and he would be sentenced to 30 years in prison for kidnapping girls, getting them addicted to drugs so that he could control them easier, and becoming their pimp. This case is a spider web of information, all about the drug and sex trafficking ring, but there's very little to be found about a lot of the women and girls involved, and I'm sure that is to protect them. However, Sierra did go missing. She was part of this ring to some extent, which we don't know what that really is, but her disappearance is definitely suspect, being that it happened around that same time. I've read that Alaska has quite a sex trafficking problem, and I know people may comment about that, but the truth is, I think every state in the US has a sex trafficking problem. So Sierra has not been heard from or seen since 2008. If the contact with police those two times are accurate, that means she was last seen on December 4th, 2008, well after both Boehm and Webster were in prison. However, it is thought that their ring included more people that went unidentified. Is it possible that one of them went after Sierra? A lot of people believe that, but I don't know why or what's leading them to that conclusion. Sierra never testified against either defendant. Maybe she refused to continue working that lifestyle and had threatened to expose someone, or maybe somebody was fearful that she would expose them. And then again, maybe she just disappeared off the radar and started new and fresh somewhere else. If she decided to clean up her act and go after having a life on the straight and narrow, she probably created a new identity for herself. But that's not always easy to do, especially with social security numbers, birth dates, and just social media in general, with photographs. She would have also needed help to make that happen, to disappear completely, but who knows? Maybe she got it. Sierra also led quite a risky lifestyle. She might have even overdosed in the company of someone who panicked and disposed of her body. She may have fallen victim to a completely unrelated criminal. If she ran with the wrong crowd, that is definitely a possibility. Of course, I hope this is a case of starting a new life somewhere else. She was definitely mixed up in some bad stuff and was not on a good path for her future. But with no evidence of such to this day, I think it might be unlikely that she started fresh. Hopefully, she has not been held captive within this ring of sex trafficking and prostitution this whole time. But with little clues we have, we just can't be sure where Sierra is. What do you think happened to Sierra Raye Roberts? Sierra is a Caucasian female, brown hair, brown eyes, 5 feet tall, and 125 pounds. Roberts' maiden name is Mullen, and it is possible that she may be using that name. If you know anything about the whereabouts of Sierra Raye Roberts or anything at all about this case, please call the Anchorage Police Department at 907-786-8900.